Bloodhunt have come out with their learnings article from the hunting rifle update. This is the previous one which added in the hunting rifle. Name kind of implies. There have been some good things, some bad things, and some things that aren't going to be changed that maybe should be. So, they kind of talk about some of the things that they have done, that they plan to do. But the biggest things that we're going to cover real quick here is reshaping combat and vampire powers. Your archetype abilities are going to get a lot stronger in this next update. The Vandal Slam is now going to have larger radius, like an area of effect, and more damage. Your Brute Shockwave is going to have more of a punch to it. It's going to push you back more. You're going to have a lot of these abilities which are getting overcharged, basically, to incite people to use them more. Because some of the combat has not been as focused on the abilities as the devs would like. This is an additional effort from us to keep the players playing by making the core mechanics in the game more interesting and emphasizing the different strengths of the different archetypes. They are also touching the blood resonance progression. This has been something which not many people have been using to its full potential. You could, at the moment, get up to 12 resonance buffs, but you could only get 3 from spawn. Then you would have to go out and either diabolize or feed on entity to unlock the extra slots. That's going to be completely changing with this next update. You will be able to get up to the maximum of 12 from spawn. There will be no unlocking the extra slots. You will gain random resonance through diablerie or feeding on entity. So you won't need to do diablerie or feeding on entity, but if you do, you're just going to gain extra resonances. So this is in another effort to try and get people to use the resonances in game, because again, a lot of the time at the moment, people have kind of been running around and just using parkour, using the guns and the weapons, and that's it. They haven't been too focused on the abilities, they haven't been too focused on resonances. So these changes are basically a massive buff, and we will have to wait for the patch notes to see if they actually change the actual statistics for them. But outside that, you're going to be able to have a lot more than you were before. Basically making everyone's vampire a lot more powerful. This should also draw fights out a little bit more. Your fights are going to be a little bit more interesting. You're going to have more time to use parkour, to use your abilities, especially if you're focusing on trying to get some of your resonances as well. They obviously talk about a lot of the things that people want to see, what they can, what they can't bring into the game. If you want to read this, I'll leave like a link somewhere, but the short version is have reasonable expectations. They're a small team. They're trying to do what they can, and they obviously can't work on everything at the same time. So with this next update, it looks like we're getting a lot of balance changes, a lot of archetype power changes, some resonance changes, some weapon changes, which we'll touch on in a little bit. But by having all of these extra things, we're going to be missing out on stuff like a battle pass, which hasn't been announced yet. We'll wait to see the patch notes for that. I don't think there's one coming. They haven't said anything in here, at least. No more quest updates. If you're a fan of quests, you're going to have to be a little bit patient, because the whole quest system, the stories behind them, the rewards, everything was taking a lot of time away from other areas which were arguably more important at the time being. So in the meantime, in the short term, we won't be seeing additional quests. Quests that are in the game will be available still. You can still progress through them. You can still get your rewards, but there just won't be any new ones in the short term, at least. Balancing. This is one of the big things that they've been touching on. Unfortunately, one of the balancings they've had a look at is aim assist. This has been a big request from the community, and a lot of people have their own opinion on this. I personally think it's overpowered. It needs to tune down, not to maybe the extent that some people are saying. They have looked into the stats, into all of the different bits and pieces, and they have concluded that it's currently in a good place between mouse and keyboard and controller. I feel like it's because most people who are using controller are generally lower skilled. And as we see more players coming in, as we see more skilled players coming in, I think this may change, but they do say they'll continue to keep a close eye on the telemetry data around it and the feedback from the players. But as of right now, we're quite satisfied with where the balance is. So keep an eye on it. If we start seeing a lot of good players coming in on controller, or if everyone jumps towards controller instead of mouse and keyboard, this may change. But as for now, there's not going to be any nerfs to aim assist. Dual crossbows. This has been another massive request from the community. It's like become a bit of a meme that dual crossbows are overpowered, they're very spammable, very easy to get kills with, and it's not fun to play against. These weapons basically were buffed to help new lower skilled players come in and try and get some kills. They have made some matchmaking changes recently over the last couple of weeks, and they say that this extra power of the dual crossbows is no longer needed, so they're going to lower the area of effect fall of damage and the fire rate. Basically, by nerfing both of these, I think it's basically going to return the dual crossbows to their old state. They're going to be annoying if you get hit by a couple, but it's definitely not going to be something that you're going to go out of your way to pick up. They're going to be terrible. I advise, if you can, start practicing with something else. They're just not going to be in a good space. There's no other mention of weapon balance in here, but this is only the learnings article, not the patch notes. So keep your eyes out for that. Performance, another really big one that I've been myself asking for. They specifically mention networking performance here. That kind of thing where you see all of these flashing icons up at the top right, when you start getting rollbacks, jitters, that sort of thing. One of the big ones I see a lot is enemies either frozen up in the sky or teleporting, that kind of thing. That's all down to network performance. So they've made some progress in their investigations and have already made some initial improvements. But if you are still encountering networking issues, where people are teleporting, where you have issues, where you're getting stuck, make sure you contact the SharkMob support. There will be a link in here, support.sharkmob.com, that's the one. Okay, so do contact them, do send in your log files, because this is going to make it a lot easier for them to track it down and find additional solutions. So by sending in a couple log files yourself, you're helping everyone out by doing that. That's what they basically kind of talk about down here. So if you guys have ideas for tournaments, for something fancy, if you guys want to organize something, get in contact with them and they can maybe help you out. One thing we haven't touched on, which isn't actually mentioned in here, but is in this image. There is, down in the bottom right-hand corner of this image, which you'll be able to see underneath my webcam here, there are some golden boots and another weapon here. Now, this weapon and these golden boots have not been in the game. The golden boots have, way back in Alpha, these were double jump boots. These were an artifact. It was a lootable item in-game, and once you had it, you could just double jump. I don't know if these are coming back as a lootable item. The way I personally would introduce these is by removing some of the perks, the archetype perks, which are useless, and by inserting them in there. But you would then have to make sure those archetype perks are available to everyone, which could mean a rework of some of the archetype perks. We'll see. The other one is the weapon. Now, some people are saying flintlocks, some people are saying sawn-off shotguns. We don't know yet. I'm sure we will find out in the patch notes. We don't know if either of these are coming in the next update, but it's in the screenshot in the learnings article, and generally these screenshots are taken from the latest update, especially this one, for example, showcasing the new Resonance buff sort of layout UI kind of thing. So there we have it. Let me know what you think.